Welcome everybody to the Fantasy Football War Room Podcast. This is episode 2 of the James and Chris Show. As you can see, the guys still aren't back, so you're stuck with the two of us again. So Chris, how's it going, buddy?
I'm good. Prep another day closer to NFL draft, which means another day closer to rookie drafts. I'm currently in the midst of a second year Devy draft. So fantasy football is always afoot with me, as it is with you. I believe the same thing. So I'm hyped. I don't know about you. You hyped?
I'm getting excited, man. The draft is around the corner, and I mean, we had a really good episode on Tuesday about the top 16 picks and what they might do, and just doing the research to see where these guys need and what they need just prepares you a little bit more. And I'm excited to see what they're going to do and how well we think or what we think they should do versus what they actually do. I can't wait for that because that's going to be fun to either say that what craziness are they thinking or where did that come from, because that's not what they should have done. Mostly my Cowboys being on that list, but that's okay.
Kyle Pitts on 110. Here we go.
Hey, so we'll see. But yeah, well, I mean, we did really well last episode, so let's just get into it. So we're going to be going from 17 down to 32. Obviously, some teams don't have first round picks, so we're going to pick them up at the end. So the order might be a little bit off here just because of the fact that those teams don't have picks and some teams have double picks. But we're going to start off with the Las Vegas Raiders and their draft capital. They have a first round, a second, 2/3, a fourth, 2/5, and a sixth. The Raiders, who have made 5 first round picks over the past 2 drafts, have only 1 first rounder this year. Each of those previous 5 was at a different position, but none of those picks addressed linebacker or offensive line, which is something they may look to this year, but Chris will get into that. And going over those first round picks of the past 5 years, so in 2016 they drafted safety Carl Joseph. In 2017 they drafted cornerback Garen Conley. In 2018 they drafted tackle Colton Miller. In 2019 they had 3 first round picks. They took defensive end Celine Farrell, number 4. I remember there was some controversy at that pick. Did I get that right or wrong?
Cleveland.
All right.
Yeah, that was from the Mac trade, right? Those picks were from the Mac trade.
Number 24, they got a guy by the name of Josh Jacobs, running back out of Alabama. At 27, they drafted safety Jonathan Abraham. And in 2020, they drafted the first wide receiver off the board, who I guess right now is a bust, Mr. Henry Ruggs. And they drafted cornerback Damon Arnett. Chris, what do the Raiders need, and what do you think there's a potential pick for them at 17?
Given the fact that a lot of their linemen left in free agency or they cut them, I see the Raiders addressing their offensive line. They could also use a linebacker or a safety. And as the good teams have, you could always bolster the defensive line. The mocks that I've seen, they're all over the place with the Raiders. But the overall consensus is that they address their defensive woes in a division where you have to stop the Chargers, the Chiefs, and the Chiefs and the Chargers. The key to the Raiders' success this season is going to be to draft defensive stars early. Potential targets here at the 117 spot would be Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah, linebacker out of Notre Dame, who will bring side-to-side speed and playmaking abilities to the Raiders. And they could also draft a defensive tackle out of Alabama, Christian Barmore, if he is there to solidify that line, especially with the addition of Yannick Ngakoue. But I would love to see them draft one of the biggest risers, Jamin Davis out of Kentucky, who I'm hoping the Saints will be able to snag him, but we'll save that for later, who could slide into their middle linebacker position.
Yeah. Again, they're a team that need help in a lot of places, and it's one of those things where at this point, like, we're at 17 down to 30. I mean, anything could happen at this point, so we're trying to get as close to what we think they need and whatever's there, and as you can see, Chris will automatically think that everybody is someone the Saints should snag, so that'll be fun to might make a list there as to all the players the Saints should snag and see what happens.
Trevor Lawrence being one of them.
Yeah, I mean, I think that ship has sailed. I don't think you're getting Lawrence.
Long gone.
You might be able to settle for Kyle Trask if you decide to take him there, but
Yeah,
that's something we'll talk about later.
yeah.
At number 18, the Washington football team. This was the story of the football season last year. They won the division at 7-9, which is horrible, and they went on to the playoffs, and they showed up well, and it was a fun story. I'm sure there'll be a movie on it at some point in time down the road. But they have a first round pick, a second, 2/3, a fourth, a fifth, and 2/7. The four starters on the defensive line, one of the best units in the NFL, are all first round picks since 2017 for these Washington football team players. And going back to their picks, so in 2016 they drafted wide receiver Josh Doxson. In 2017 they drafted defensive tackle Jonathan Allen out of Alabama. In 2018 they went back to Alabama and drafted Darren Payne in 2019, they drafted a quarterback, which didn't turn out so well, in Dwayne Haskins out of Ohio State. They also drafted defensive end Montez Sweat out of Mississippi State. And last year, they got a monster at number 2, Chase Young, defensive end out of Ohio State. Chris, what are Washington's needs, and what are some potential picks for them?
I think Washington needs to address their O-line going into this draft. They also have a bunch of woes defensively. They could move up, and they could be one of the teams that move up and grab a quarterback, as they only have really Ryan Fitzpatrick. They have that other kid, Heineke, who had a good playoff game. Is he an NFL starter? I don't know. I don't think so. But they have spots that they can address through this draft and become one of the contenders in that NFC East. They're, like I said, they're an interesting team to watch this draft. They can move up. They may even take Kellen Mond or Kyle Trask and sit for a year behind Fitzpatrick to learn the ins and outs of NFL and the life as a starting quarterback in the league. One of these guys that needs to be polished into a star. With the 119, I see Washington going after an O-lineman, possibly adding Elijah Vera Tucker or a Rashawn Slater if he's still there. If he happens to fall, I could see Christian Darrisaw out of Virginia Tech land there as well. And I also think that they need to draft a wide receiver, but I think that's a position that they can address later in the draft.
Yeah, again, you're spot on there. I think that's where they'll go. Again, will they go that way is another question.
Yeah.
But
a lot of variables.
The quarterback in a trade up is intriguing to me. I'd be interested to see if they do that, just by the fact that they sign these guys and what they have there. But I'll be following, obviously, as a Cowboy fan, just to see what they get better or not, and hopefully they don't. That's the plan I'm hoping they go with. So. The next team, the Chicago Bears, finished 8-8. They've got a first round pick. They got a second, a third, a fifth, and fourth, sixth. So the Bears returned to the first round after a 2-year absence, courtesy of trading away first round picks to acquire pass rusher Khalil Mack in 2018. Their first rounders from 2015 through 2018 were all top 10 picks, but only 2 of them, quarterback Mitchell Trubisky and pending free agent and linebacker Roquan Smith, remain with the Chicago. Now, Trubisky obviously is gone because he was a free agent, so he's no longer on that list. But let's go back and see what their picks were like. So in 2016, they drafted linebacker Leonard Floyd out of Georgia. 2017, they traded up to go get Mitchell Trubisky. Obviously, that was fantastic for them. And in 2018, they drafted linebacker Roquan Smith. 2019, no pick, and 2020, no pick. So they really don't have much in the first round of what they've been doing lately, and not doing very well aside from Roquan. Chris, what do they need, and what do you think they're going to try to do at 20?
The Bears could use a quarterback. I know they just picked up Dalton out of free agency. They could use help on the O-line, a wide receiver in a wide receiver needy team, and a corner. Since they decided to trade away some of the big names on defense, I got the Bears picking a defender at the 120 spot, possibly one of the top corners. If one of them happened to fall their way, like Caleb Fairley or Greg Newsome. But they also need to draft another middle of the field playmaker for now starting QB Andy Dalton. I would love to see Rashad Bateman end up in Chicago, but one of the targets I would really love to see end up in Chicago is Rondale Moore out of Purdue. With Allen Robinson and Darnell Mooney playing the outside, Rondale would be giving LBs nightmares playing in the middle of the field. Given that, I still see the Bears picking a defender. I mean, at the end of the day, they are still the Bears.
Yeah, that's the only thing holding them back. But I don't think they're going wide receiver. I don't think they're. Yeah, I don't think they don't. So. I don't think they have the balls to do that, especially with what other needs they have.
Yeah.
I mean, they should probably be trading up to go get a quarterback because they still don't have one of those. And they can't tell me that Dalton is the guy. I don't care who you are. I saw Dalton throw last year for a lot of games. He's not the guy anywhere. So he's a gap, and they're probably going to be in the bottom half again next year and have to draft again. So
are you taking, like, where do you got Allen Robinson coming into the year with Andy Dalton?
Well, I mean, he's better off than he was before. I think Dalton can get him the ball more times. I don't think Dalton wins them games. Amari Cooper, CeeDee Lamb, they still finished with good seasons by the end of the year. And once he locks onto a target, he'll hit you. And he was doing that. So, I mean, I could easily see Robinson still finish as he would, 1,000-something yards, probably 7 to 9 TDs, somewhere in that range. Maybe a little bit more if there some garbage time extra numbers come in. But I still think he's probably top 10 easy, and he'll still be a guy that people are going to draft high in the boards.
Yeah, I agree with that.
So what about the other wide receivers that are there? I don't know. I think Mooney's jumped up as the number 2, obviously. He'll probably have a pretty good, okay season. Again, we're assuming they're going to be down a lot. I don't think they're going to be winning every game. And then you have to factor in what happens. It's a new offense again. I mean, Nagy's got new players. What's he going to do with what he has there? You got Tariq Cohen coming back, which could help on some drop passes and Cohen kind of rushing down the field because he was really good at that before he got hurt. So you got some different things that could happen. I don't think Dalton's QB1. I think he's a borderline streamer. Back end QB2 at most. If you're in a 2 QB league, could he be the guy for your QB2? I mean, I'd rather other options if you can, but if you have to take him and you're kind of punting that second QB, then he's a guy that's going to start at least. So
serviceable.
Yeah, but that's kind of what I see it there. But I have no problem with Allen Robinson. I think he's going to do fine this year, and especially if they target him like he does, he'll be okay. They're just not going to win.
Football games, I think it'll be a lot less air yards. I think there'll be a lot less like down the field throws. So I think Allen Robinson's success is going to be counted upon racks or yards after the catch and receiving after the catch. So
and PPR will probably be huge too because he'll probably get a lot of targets.
Yes, I agree with that. Good call.
All right, next, the Indianapolis Colts finished 11-5. They've got a first, a second, a fourth, fifth, sixth, and a seventh. The Colts didn't have a first-round pick a year ago after they traded it away for defensive tackle DeForest Buckner. They spent 2 of their past 3 first-round picks on offensive linemen and hit on both. Center Ryan Kelly and guard Quentin Nelson have given Indianapolis one of the best offensive lines in the NFL. Going through their last 5 picks here, so we got Philip Dorsett, 2015 wide receiver. 2016 was obviously Ryan Kelly. 2017 was Malik Hooker, safety out of Ohio State. 2018 Quentin Nelson, guard, and 2019 there was no pick as it was traded to Washington. And of course, last year's pick, we all know who that was. I think he turned out to be a pretty good guy too. So
the train.
That's right. So, Chris, what are these guys going to do, and what do they need?
Well, the Colts definitely need a running back, right?
I think so. Yeah, that's not a bad position.
just to fill the room up a little bit more. They could use a tackle, another wide receiving threat, a middle of the field target like a tight end. And they could use a corner. James, breaking down these teams, it seems to me the key to football success is QB, an edge, a corner, and a tackle. A lot of the teams at the top end of the draft mainly lack two or more of these key positions. The Colts, on the other hand, I believe are one of these teams that are looking to take the next step. A young defense, decent wide receivers, now invested in quarterback Carson Wentz. One of the spots that the Colts lack along with the left guard is the defensive edge. Look for the Colts to address the position to take some of the pressure off all-pro tackle DeForest Buckner. I got the Colts landing Aziz. I should have let you pronounce this one.
Go ahead. I like to hear this.
Aziz Ojulari, who would be a great fit in their scheme and add some much-needed pass rush.
The best part about all this, or worst part, I guess, is that I can't even tell you if that's right or wrong. So, all right, it was good.
That's good. Let's go.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think the Colts are almost there. They could be a team.
Yeah.
I mean, if Wentz comes in and turns into the Wentz that he was, and I mean, he's with one of his old coaches now. I mean, he's going to be back into some familiar grounds. He's got some really good weapons there, and a great offensive line that can keep him up. They could be an intriguing team that could do some damage. And if you add some,
I agree.
You know, add a little bit more to what, you know, those little holes, and they don't have many, like you said, this could be that team. So, yeah, it'll be interesting to see where they go, what they pick, and what they build on. But definitely running back in round 3 to 4 should be, you know, something that they're.
Jeez, and they're in a faltering division. I mean,
yeah,
Houston Texans are in shambles. The Tennessee Titans,
them.
who we're going to talk about next year, are, you know, I don't know what the direction that they're taking. And who's the other team in that division? Houston, Indy, Tennessee. I always get the fourth team wrong with these divisions, man. I was doing this today.
You stumped me on that. I got to go back and look at the divisions.
Houston, Tennessee. It doesn't matter, anyways. But either way, I think they're in the spot to take over the division and, like you said, do some serious damage in the league.
Yeah, it could be fun. But yeah, I think they're the front runners of that division anyway. So, but we'll get to those other teams, as you said. So, speaking of one of them, obviously, the Tennessee Titans. So they've got a first round, a second, 2/3, a fourth, fifth, sixth, and a seventh. And I mean, again, there's not much on what they're going with. We don't know which way they're going. Like Chris said, they could go. You know, they're going to obviously try to win because that's everyone's goal at the end of the day. But we'll see in the draft exactly how far they're willing to go and what they pick. But in 2016, they had Jake Conklin from Ohio. Offensive lineman out of Michigan. In 2017, they had 2 first-round picks, Corey Davis, wide receiver, who's now with the Jets, and Dore Jackson, a defensive back out of USC. 2018, Rashawn Evans, linebacker out of Alabama. 2019, Jeffrey Simmons, defensive lineman out of Mississippi State. And 2020, at the 29th pick, was Isaiah Wilson, offensive lineman out of Georgia. So, Chris, what do these guys need? And what do you think there's potential at 22?
The Tennessee Titans lost some key role players. They need a playmaking wide receiver, and they need a playmaking solid shutdown DB, and they need a corner. The Titans, they are in an intriguing position here at the 121. They have a ton of holes to fill in these important positions that I just talked about. For them, but it's going to be difficult for them to hit on these targets based on where they are in the draft. They're really going to need to count on their scouts and their draft room front office to get these right. They lost corner Dore Jackson. They lost Malcolm Butler. They lost Corey Davis on the offensive end, and with a bunch of journeymen playing at the DB position, and the depth of the wide receiver position coming out of the draft, I can see the Titans going corner here with the possibility of Newsome or Farley, or maybe even Asante Samuel Jr. Some ties to wide receiver Elijah Moore, who was once A.J. Brown's teammate in Ole Miss. So another target that I would like to see the Tennessee Titans grab. A nice route runner who can get into the open field. But honestly, I think the Tennessee Titans had a good 2-year run, 2 to 3 year run here, and they're going to start on the downward trend of a rebuilding team. So I see them go in with a corner.
Yeah, that's I mean, the wide receiver could be interesting because they want to pair someone with AJ Brown.
Yeah,
I think they need
the
that
wide
too.
receiver.
So,
yeah.
Just a fact check: that fourth team is the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
So we don't even need to worry about it.
Yeah, so they're also
Thanks
not.
for that.
I mean, they might actually jump the Houston Texans and
Tennessee
move up
Titans.
a little bit.
I mean, it's possible.
So,
man.
but I think the Colts are gonna walk through that division without a problem. So
I think so. Yeah.
all right, moving on to our next team. This one is the Pittsburgh Steelers. This one I'm interested to see where you're going with that 24th pick because I've heard a lot of different places. So they got a first, a second, a third, 2 fourths, a sixth, and 2 sevenths. And the Steelers, who didn't have a first round pick last year after they used it to trade for safety Mika Fitzpatrick, have used their past 7 first round picks on defensive players, including 5 linebackers. So the obvious trend is defensive player, but let's see what happens, what you say. And like I said, their last few picks here. So 2020, they didn't have one. 2019 was Devin Bush Jr., linebacker. 2018 was safety Terrell Edmonds. 2017, TJ Watt. Let me tell you, they know how to draft these guys. There's some good players.
They know how to
there.
draft defensive guys.
Yeah, and 2016 was Artie Burns, cornerback out of Miami. So I mean, they hit on some good players there. So Chris, what does Pittsburgh need, and what is some potential that they're going to go with?
I think for me, the Steelers go running back here. Whether it's Etienne, Najee Harris, or Javonte Williams, which I hope it's Javonte Williams. The Steelers were one of the worst rushing teams last season, averaging 84.4 yards a game, 3.6 yards per carry, and they only netted a league worst 1,351 yards for the year. So the position is the position of need. Whatever one is picked, though, I'm expecting big production as the Steelers look to lessen the load on Big Ben, who was asked too much of last season. And you noticed that down the stretch. You've seen the offense falter down the stretch when they solely relied on Big Ben. So for me, it's a running back. Now, Etienne, Najee, or Javonte James, which one would you prefer to land in Pittsburgh, and where do you have them finishing in the top running back lists at the end of the year?
Okay, so first question, neither. Don't want anyone good going to Pittsburgh, but that's not going to happen. So I think it's going to be one of the big two. I think it's going to be one of either Najee or Etienne, whichever one doesn't get picked earlier.
Yeah.
I don't think there's going to be 3 running backs in the first round. I think at most it'll be 2. And I think it's going to be Najee first, Etienne second, and I think Etienne. If they take a running back Pittsburgh, it'll probably be Etienne.
Yep.
Do I like Etienne going there? No. Do they need a running back? Yes.
Yes.
To answer your question of 1, 2, 3, it's hard because unless I know where they are,
it's tricky now.
It's tricky to tell you that. I mean, for pure potential wise, as much as everyone's talking about Najee being the number 1 guy, I mean, I don't think Etienne really lost being that guy too. I like Etienne. I think he could be really good on the right team too, and I think Etienne could be that number 1. I mean, Etienne was always the number 1 up until this year where Najee kind of jumped him, and I just don't know if it was enough for me to say, like, that team was stacked, and I get it. That's why he didn't really get as much as what he was doing, but I still think Etienne can be dangerous. And again, if I have to go right now of these 3, I kind of want to do Etienne, Najee, and then Javonte is the way I'd go. And but I just learned myself a little bit more about Javonte as we went, and I saw what he could do. Could he be one? I mean, it's really close between the three of them, so he could be. But
it really
but
is.
I think Etienne could, in the right system. He was just so good back when too. So, what about you? What's your take on that?
I mean, I hope it's Etienne or Javonte on Pittsburgh. I'm not a big Najee guy. Just personally, I'm not a big Najee guy heading into the NFL. I like Javonte on Pittsburgh, and I like Etienne on Pittsburgh. I think either one of them, I'm going to try to grab in fantasy drafts. I think they're going to be in a great situation in Pittsburgh. So give me either one of the three on Pittsburgh there. Give me either one of them.
Yeah. What about quarterback? Could they go quarterback here?
I don't think they go quarterback at the 1, 2, 4. I think it's something they do maybe a bit later in the draft. I don't think that the value at the quarterback position is going to be that much more better than what they can grab at other skilled positions. So no, I don't think they go quarterback this early unless they trade up, which is something that they might do. I don't necessarily see them trading up that high, as their earliest pick is the 124. So the team taking the pick back is probably going to need some more juice on the trade. But yeah, I don't see him taking a quarterback this early.
All right. Well, let's go to their rivals then, the Cleveland Browns, who had a Cinderella story of a season, making the playoffs, which was fun to see. I mean, I was rooting for them. I mean, they weren't obviously going to win because it's the Cleveland Browns, but
came close though, man.
They did. But
that one non-call is pretty much what kept them out from moving on, man.
But anyways, we'll see if they can increase and get better this year.
You just don't want to admit it, eh?
No, I won't. It's not happening. So that's also because we do have one of our fans out there who's a huge Cleveland Browns fan, and we don't want to give him any benefit of the doubt. So
that's it.
So they have a first round pick, a second. They have 2 thirds. They have 2 fourths, a fifth, a sixth, and a seventh. And their last few rounds of drafts, they've done pretty well as well. I mean, in 2016, Corey Coleman, wide receiver out of Baylor, that one was a bust. In 2017, they drafted number 1 overall Myles Garrett. I mean, the guy's a machine.
Did you hear the story about that? Actually, sorry to cut you off. The Hugh Jackson story that he had?
No.
He came out and said that front office wanted him to take Mitch Trubisky with that 101 instead of Myles Garrett. I don't know how true it is, but on a radio interview, he came out and said they wanted me to take Trubisky instead of Myles Garrett, which just would have been disastrous.
No, but that would have fit the Cleveland mold. I think Trubisky would have been perfect for them.
yeah, if they wanted to continue down the same path, yeah, for sure. But that would have changed the draft. I mean, all these moves it changes everything that we're talking about here. One move like that could change it all.
Yeah. In that same year, they took Jabril Peppers, safety, also a really good player. I think he's with the Giants now, but he was...
that was the OBJ trade, yeah.
Yeah, and then also took David Njoku, tight end out of Miami that year. So that was a good year for them. Well, I don't know what's happening with Njoku this year, but I mean, he's probably someone that's going to be sought after if he doesn't stay with Cleveland. In 2018, they took Baker Mayfield, number 1 overall. And they took Denzel Ward, number 4 overall. They had some good picks and some good players here. 2019, they didn't have a first-round pick. And then 2020, they took Jedrick Wills, offensive tackle out of Alabama at number 10. So got some big pieces. The team looked good. They're probably going to go back to the playoffs again this year. Chris, what are some needs, and what do you think are some potential picks at 26?
I think the Cleveland Browns could use another playmaker, so a wide receiver, an edge rusher to help out Myles Garrett on the other side, and of course a corner, which is something they need but don't really need too much. They've kind of addressed it through free agency. Probably one of the up-and-coming young teams coming into the year. Look for the Browns to add another playmaker to their offense with the addition of some of the names on defense and the return of some of the big names in the secondary, like Grant Delpit and the guy you just mentioned there that they picked in 2019. What was his name?
2019 was Denzel. No, 2019 there was Denzel Ward. Denzel Ward was 2018. Yeah,
2018. So he's coming back this year as well. Look for the Browns to put themselves in striking distance of that AFC North title. OBJ returning, Jarvis being Jarvis. The Browns adding another playmaker for Baker is the path they need to go. They beat the Steelers at home last year. They had the Chiefs on the ropes, and it came down to pretty much that non-call where the ball then bounced out of the end zone and the Chiefs got the ball back. I mean, if they were to add a Rondale Moore, if he's there, an Elijah Moore, a Diami Brown, or even a Terrace Marshall, I could see the Browns taking the next step forward into football relevancy.
Those are some big words. I'm sure, like I said, that fan of ours is jumping, saying, yes, I agree, go with it. But at the end of the day, it's still the Browns. And
it's still the Browns.
There's still a chance that doesn't happen.
There's 3 years in a row now they've looked so good on paper, but when the season starts, you're just like, what is going on here?
It's one of those feel-good stories if they do win. I mean, if my Cowboys can't win, I guess Cleveland's not a bad thing to win, maybe.
No, bite your tongue.
Well, I mean, I'm not going for the Saints, so don't think that's happening.
Come on. I think I had you guys cheering for the Saints last season. Let's go. You like the Saints.
I mean, I might have pretended for a week. I don't know. We'll see. Our next team, the Baltimore Ravens, finished 11-5. They've got a first-round pick, a second, a third, a fourth, 2 fifths, and a sixth. Their last few draft picks here, I've got them 2020, they took Patrick Queen, linebacker. That was huge. 2019, they took Marquise Hollywood Brown, another good wide receiver. 2018, they took tight end Hayden Hurst at 25, who's been traded, and some dude by the name of Lamar Jackson. I don't know if he's any good or not. 2017, they took Marlon Humphrey, cornerback at Alabama, another good pick. And 2016, Ronnie Staley, offensive tackle at Notre Dame. So, I mean, pretty good on their picks as well. They seem to know what they're doing with those late-end picks. Chris, what do they need, and what do you think they're going to take at 27?
I think that's a common thing that you've said here with a lot of these back-end teams in the draft here is that they hit on their picks. So,
yep.
You know what I mean? But for the Baltimore Ravens, I mean, at this pick 127, it has to be wide receiver, right?
Yeah, I think so.
It has to be wide receiver. No question that the Baltimore Ravens desperately need to address their hole of an elite.
But wait, this happened last year where there was a team. They wear green. They wear yellow and greenish. They also should have taken a wide receiver.
Yes.
They didn't.
Yes,
so
they didn't.
You can't say that it has to be right now. This is what I'm.
But Lamar Jackson is not Aaron Rodgers at the end of the day, and Lamar Jackson doesn't have a Devonta Adams to bail him out.
Correct.
Most mocks have Kadarius Toney going into the Ravens. I've voiced my opinion on Kadarius Toney.
I like that.
You like it?
I like that.
I mean, I don't see much of a difference between Toney and Hollywood Brown. For me, I would think a bigger bodied burner would be better. Someone to go up and get the ball, get into space, play the middle of the field, I think would be better for
That's
the
what
Ravens.
Andrews is for. Right? They have Mark Andrews. That's what he does. So
sure, yeah, but I don't know, man. Like,
okay, so who would you have them taking then?
I'm a big Diami Brown guy. I'm a big Elijah Moore guy. They're a bigger body than Kadarius Toney, so I would prefer them in Baltimore's offense. It's just their ability to get open. Kadarius Toney has the ability to get open too. He's got good route running. He's quick. I just think the play style to Hollywood Brown it's eerily similar, and having two of the same guys, I don't think it's gonna benefit them too much. I like Elijah Moore. I like Diami Brown. I'm okay with Kadarius Toney going there. I don't think that's gonna be a good fit for what they got. I think a bigger bodied guy, like I said, when they run the RPOs, is gonna benefit more in that system. Whoever it is, though, I am looking to acquire. Even if it is Kadarius Toney, I'm looking to acquire that second wide receiver in that group, because it looks like they're going to start taking the next step to throwing the ball, getting more air yards. So give me the wide receiver core in Baltimore this year, as sacrilegious as that is to say. Over the past few years, it hasn't been good.
I like it because I got Lamar in 2 leagues, so I'm hoping that actually I could have him in 3 depending if I keep him, but it's Josh Allen who's the other quarterback, so I probably won't. But
Decisions.
yeah, that's a later talk. But yeah, I mean that could be interesting. Again, you're right. It's wide receiver. It has to be. That's all we have here. It's wide receiver. They're taking a wide receiver. If they don't take a wide receiver, we're gonna put a big dunce hat on the GM and put him in the corner and
yeah. It's an automatic fantasy, draft loss for them.
And they failed in free agency. They didn't get to bring in the guys that they wanted. Had they brought in Juju or someone else or whoever they were looking for, I mean,
yeah,
then okay, but they did get, was it Watkins signed there, correct? Sammy Watkins?
They did get Sammy Watkins, that's true, but still, Watkins is good for what, 1 week? He's still
but now you can add a third one, and now you could have 3 wide receivers. Hollywood, Watkins, and someone else. Like that changes big time. That'd be interesting.
Yeah, I'm excited for that Baltimore offense this season. I'm not gonna lie.
All right, let's go to our next one. This one is right up for you. This is right in your wheelhouse. The New Orleans Saints. What is it? The Drew Breesless New Orleans Saints, I guess I could say now. First round, a second, 2/3, a fourth, a sixth, and 2/7. The Saints hit it big with 2 first-rounders in 2017, drafting Pro Bowl cornerback Marshawn Lattimore and 2-time All-Pro offensive tackle Ryan Ramczyk. How do you say that? Ramczyk, thank you.
There you go.
So
Ramczyk?
yeah, close enough. At least I got the first one.
You got Ryan right.
Yeah, so going back to their picks, 2016 was Sheldon Rankins, defensive tackle. 2017 was Lattimore. 2017 was Ramczyk. 2018 they drafted Marcus Davenport, defensive end from UTSA. 2019 they didn't have a pick, and 2020 they drafted Cesar Ruiz, center out of Michigan. So, Chris, what does your Saints need, and what do you use a potential pick at 28? Not what you want them to pick, potential pick.
The Saints have needs all across the board. I mean, given the cap hell that the Saints have found themselves in, with nothing to really show for it but disappointment, the New Orleans Saints need to hit on their draft picks. With the departure of Janoris Jenkins at corner, if there happens to be a stud corner there at 128, look for them to go with that route. They've been tied to Asante Samuel Jr. if he's there. With my luck, they'll probably draft Kadarius Toney, and I will have to cheer for Kadarius Toney. They have been mocked in the beginning to have picked Kyle Trask at the quarterback position, but with so many holes to fill, I hope it's not Trask. I hope they have to get it right. They could fill the linebacker position. I mentioned them last episode with Jamin Davis out of Kentucky. He fits the Sean Payton linebacker mold. His pro day numbers were absurd and his value skyrocketed. So for me, I'm predicting linebacker or corner, so Jamin Davis or Asante Samuel Jr., and I really hope it's not Kadarius Toney.
Yeah, I got them going defensive too at this point. Yeah. I think they're in a part where they've got some offensive weapons. They don't really need to increase that right now, and they want to see what Jameis Winston can do. I mean, if he is the guy, then maybe they've settled that quarterback. They don't have to worry, but that defense needs to get some help. So I think that's the way they go, and they take the year to see what happens. So I think those are good picks. I think Asante Samuel Jr. would be pretty good there too. I'm hearing some good things about him coming out, so it should be interesting to see where they go with it. And next, talking about that green and yellow team that we talked about last year. So Green Bay Packers finished 13-3. They got a first, a second, a third, 2 fourths, 2 fifths, 2 sixths, and a seventh. Since drafting Aaron Rodgers in 2005, the Packers have had 15 first-round picks. They have used 12 of them on the defensive side, 2 on offensive tackles, and 1 on a quarterback last year in Jordan Love. They haven't taken a wide receiver in the first round since 2002. I wonder what I'm foreshadowing here. So going back to their last few picks, as we said, 2020 they took Jordan Love. In 2019 they took defensive end Rashawn Gary and safety Darnell Savage Jr. 2018, they took Jair Alexander, cornerback. 2017, they didn't have a pick. And 2016, they took Kenny Clark out of UCLA. Chris, what do the Green Bay Packers need? And what will they potentially take? Because I think those are going to be two different things.
Yes. The Packers are in need of a center with the loss of Lindley. They are in need of a wide receiver.
No.
I know we've got into some pretty heated discussion with our Green Bay friend there, but they definitely need a wide receiver as much as he says that they don't. And they could use a corner. I mean, that was a part of their demise last season in the playoffs, was not being able to stop the pass. Kevin King was just atrocious. Given the fact that the Packers will most likely miss out on one of the top first-round corners, I'm looking for the Packers to address the loss of Lindley to the Chargers and add a center in the first round. I have them taking Landon Dickerson, the center from Alabama. He led one of the best O-lines this past year in college. Some of you may remember him as recently as the guy cartwheeling in the Mac Jones Pro Day interviews. Did you see that, James?
I did, yes. That was him, eh?
That's him, yeah. He's just coming off an ACL injury, too, so it shows that he's progressing really well. To be 270 and doing cartwheels, I mean, it's pretty impressive. Although it isn't a sexy pick like a flashy new wide receiver, the Packers would benefit from playing it safe and ignoring the outside noise that they have to draft a wide receiver first here. Take the lineman and pick the wide receiver in the second.
Okay, but hold on. So last year they drafted a backup quarterback in the first. They drafted a backup running back because they re-signed Aaron Jones and he's still the backup in the second.
Yep.
I think they're going to draft a backup kicker in the first because that just only makes logical sense.
It's right up their alley.
I mean, that's
they're
really
probably going to do something so off-brand that they shouldn't do, like probably draft another running back or a Kyle Trask or something, given the history of their drafting. But man, they need to play it safe.
I think that they may give in to the fans this year, though. I think that they may go that wide receiver just to kind of calm the storm. But I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if it was a kicker too, just because that's
it's par for the course.
Yeah, why not? We'll do another kicker. We don't have two of those yet, and anyways, we'll see what they do. But it'll be fun on draft day when they make their selection. Going into the next team, this was a fun team to watch this season. I enjoyed it. The Buffalo Bills finished 13-3, had a good playoff run. They have a first round, a second, a third, 2 fifths, a sixth, and a 7. The Bills, who didn't have a first round pick last year because they used it to trade for wide receiver Stephon Diggs. He was actually a pretty good guy. Have 4 core starters from their past 4 first round picks, including 2020 Pro Bowl selection cornerback Tre'Davious White, quarterback Josh Allen, and linebacker Tremaine Edmonds. So going back to their picks, and they got some killer players here. In 2016, Shaq Lawson, defensive end out of Clemson. 2017, Tre'Davious White. 2018, Josh Allen, which a lot of people were questioning them taking Josh Allen at that pick. I remember that. Also in 2018, they took Tremaine Edmonds at 16. 2019, they took Ed Oliver, defensive tackle, and they didn't have a pick last year. Chris, what do the Bills need, and what do you think are some potential picks at 30?
I think the Bills need a running back, a workhorse running back. The Buffalo Bills, if one of either Javonte Williams, I don't think Najee Harris or Travis Etienne is available, they need to make it a priority to get one of these guys. The biggest flaw in offense last season was the presence of an elite running back. Any running back that lands there is a guy that I'm going to target, just like Pittsburgh. I'm going to target in my fantasy drafts. They have the potential to steal the backfield from Singletary or Zach Moss, who haven't shown the dependent to be a 3-down workhorse back that Buffalo needs to take some of the physicality away from Josh Allen. Allen is going to be getting a bag soon, and if Buffalo is going to want to protect their asset, so getting one of these elite top prospect RBs should be a priority of theirs. So to me, I think it's going to be a running back. They could use the pick to address the corner as well. I'm excited for everything Buffalo this year. James, do you think Josh Allen finishes as fantasy's QB1 again this season?
Back-to-back ones is tough. Not
Really
many,
is, man.
not many people do it. Look at Patrick Mahomes. Patrick Mahomes has the potential to be one every year, and
Yep.
I don't think he's been one for a bit. Will Allen finish top five? Yes.
Yeah.
Um, one is hard because that's the guy. I can't say one. I don't think it'll be one. I think Patrick Mahomes will find a way to get back there, especially if
Finish
they
one.
give him something to come back. And then, like you said, look at Lamar. If Lamar learns how to throw better, Lamar could get back up there, especially with his rushing
Yep.
numbers.
That's true as well.
So there's a bunch of things. I mean, I think he's top three, top five for sure. Set him, forget him kind of player. And of course, we hope there's no injury there. But
Yeah.
to repeat as one's going to be tough. But he'll be close. He'll be close.
Now, in Dynasty Startup, you taking Josh Allen or Lamar Jackson as your QB1?
Ouch. I think I got to go Josh Allen right now.
Josh.
I think
Yeah.
I need. It also depends what they get at wide receiver. If they get a solid stud wide receiver in Baltimore and that changes the things a little bit, maybe I'll go that route. But right now it's Josh Allen's team. And going back to who you think they should take, I don't know if they go running back. And I don't know if a running back being there is going to be the guy you think he's going to be, because at the end of the day, Josh Allen is their RB1. On that
Yeah,
goal
but
line, Josh Allen's the guy who gets the ball.
no
Now
doubt, no doubt.
I know it's because the other two guys weren't that great. I get that, but they also didn't have the opportunities because Josh Allen runs. There are times, I mean, I'm watching the games and he decides to just take it and run for a 40-yard scamper just because he has nothing else to do. Like, so your running backs can't quite get in there. And then
Yeah.
Moss was a high pick too. He was a second rounder, I think he was,
Mm-hmm.
right? So if they bring in another guy, which again they might, I think it's still going to be too much of a committee to give it all to that one guy.
Any
That's the
relevance,
only
yeah.
thing I worry about if they bring it in. And then on top of that committee, you still have Josh Allen taking carries and goal line stuff
Sniping.
away from you. So it's one of those, it's a hard one for me to say, yeah, he's going to be a for sure factor if they bring in that. But I think I've been reading that they like the running backs they have, Singletary and Moss. They can carry them again. And they addressed wide receiver by bringing in Sanders.
And they kept McKenzie.
They
and
kept
stopped
McKenzie.
Davis.
They got that. So I think they're going to run with that core. I think they addressed the the cornerback, like you were saying. I
Corner,
think that's where
yeah.
they're going to go and add to that defense, because defense wins championships. Look what they did for Brady.
Yep. Offense wins games and defense wins
Yeah,
championships.
so I think that's where they're going to go. But
I like it.
I'm not sure a running back is a guy I'm going to be focusing on if that's where they go. All right, next up, the Kansas City Chiefs, 14-2, lost in the Super Bowl. First round, second, third, fourth, 2/5 and a sixth. So the Chiefs have had only 2 first-round picks in the past 5 seasons, using them on quarterback Patrick Mahomes in 2017 and running back Clyde Edwards-Helaire in 2020. They hit on one. They did not hit on the other, but I think he might have a resurgence this season with a year under his belt. So I wouldn't fold your cards on Clyde Edwards-Helaire just yet. But Chris, what do the Chiefs need, and what do you think they draft, or what are potential picks they could draft there?
They lost some offensive linemen in free agency, so they've had to make some cuts. I think that's the way that they're going to go. They could use a wide receiver. They have been tied to a couple of these guys, and they could use a corner as well. I mean, you can never go wrong with a good corner. They have Breland, I believe, on the one side, so to be able to attach someone to help them out on the other side would be a good fit for them. I don't know how you looked at it, but to me, the Chiefs kind of failed miserably in free agency. The story about Andy Reid sending photos to Juju of the Lombardi kind of screamed desperation almost. A lot of I don't think that's a move Bill Belichick does. I don't know about you.
I think the hard part for them to get another wide receiver in there is because the wide receiver knows that he's not the first, not the second.
Yeah,
he might be the third option, and then even being the third option Mahomes still spreads the ball out to all the other guys too.
Yeah,
So,
yeah,
I
that's
mean,
true.
Juju going there, what's Juju? Is he the third wide receiver? Is he the second wide receiver? Is he even lower? Like, I mean, it's hard to get a guy in there to fit that system, especially with what they've already built. So, I mean, even though the accolades of possibly winning a championship are there, Tampa Bay just proved that they could be beat. So, is
Yep.
it really? I mean, you get more money and you get more, especially on a 1 year contract. I mean, Juju, I think, made the right move to go there over KC only because he'll be the guy in
The
Pittsburgh.
guy. Yeah.
In there, you're chasing a ring. What's Juju? Juju's only 23, 24. He's got time to chase a ring. Right now, he's got to make sure he gets back his career and make sure people know that he's the best wide receiver out there.
Yeah. I agree with
So
that.
I think that's kind of what it's coming down to, and that's why they're having a hard time getting a wide receiver. I think here, depending on what wide receivers are left, I could see them going to get a wide receiver too because
Yep.
they can't get one in free agency, obviously. So maybe one of the big guys that are there, that are lower end, the 6, 7, 8 guys that are available, just to add, because Miko Hardman hasn't been filling out the way they wanted, and Robinson isn't the other guy there, so they need someone to help Tyreek Hill, and Kelsey's only getting older, so that's where I could see them going. But they could also pick that up in the second round, I think, too. So we'll see what they decide to address first.
Yep. I agree. I mean, I think they're taking a step back this season. To be honest, I don't think they make it back to the Super Bowl.
You know what? The Bills look like they're coming on strong. The Colts are going to have a good team. There's going to be some teams. Baltimore's looking good, too. I mean, there's some teams that can beat them again, and
Yep.
they're showing it. So we'll see. Next up is the Super Bowl champs, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They will have the last pick in the draft, and there's a few teams after this that don't obviously have first round picks. We'll go through them next, but they have a first, a second, a third, a fourth, fifth, sixth, and 2 sevenths. Their team is pretty stacked. They're trying to bring everybody back from last year. Going through some of their previous picks in 2020, they had Tristan Wirfs, offensive
Wirfs.
tackle. Wirfs, thank you. 2019, Devin White, guy was a stud in the playoffs. 2018, Vita Vea, defensive tackle, another stud. 2017, OJ Howard, the most gifted tight end that we've seen coming out of that draft, and yet they haven't been able to use him properly. He's coming back, so we'll see what happens. And 2016, Vernon Hargraves, cornerback out of Florida. I don't think he's there anymore. And Chris, what do the Super Bowl champs need, and what are some potential picks at 32?
Given the fact that the Bucks were able to sign almost everyone except Antonio Brown right now from their Super Bowl winning season, the Bucks have the luxury to pick pretty much whomever they want. They could use an edge rusher. They could use possibly another O lineman. And if AB doesn't sign, they could use a wide receiver for some insurance. Some of the names I've seen attached to Tampa Bay have been wide receiver Elijah Moore, edge rusher Jason Owe, and QB Kyle Trask. I like Moore if AB doesn't re-sign there. As a Saints fan, I'd hate to see Owe twice a season. So anyway, the Bucks go here with either a possible trade back or a wide receiver. If it is an offensive guy, I don't see them making much of an impact year one fantasy wise. So anyone that goes there on that side of the ball, you may have to drop a bit in your rookie rankings this season.
Yeah, I like a trade back. I think this is a good spot for them to trade back, maybe pick up a few seconds and go from there. But
Yeah.
if they don't, I also don't mind the QB idea. I don't think the backup QB, who is it right now?
Blaine Gabbert.
Yeah, I don't think he's the option, even though they said he's the guy, the successor. I don't think so. And having someone that can learn from Brady for a year, if he's only
Yeah.
one more year, is amazing to have. So bringing in a guy right now might not be a bad idea, especially since you've already basically kept most of these guys here for the next couple of years. So you're going to want a
Exactly.
good successor.
Yep.
So we'll see where they go. But now this brings us to our teams without a first round pick, and we've got 3 of them. They've obviously been traded away. So the first one we're going to talk about is the Seattle Seahawks. Seattle has 3 picks in this draft. They've got a second, a fourth, and a seventh. That is not good.
No.
And then looking at their draft history as well, this was interesting too. I actually went back a little further just because I wanted to show some things here. They didn't from 2013 to 2015, 3 years with no pick. 2016 they draft Jermaine Ifedi, a guard out of Texas A&M. 2017, no first round pick. 2018, they drafted Rashad Penny. We all know that didn't turn out very well. 2019, they drafted at 29 L.J. Collier, defensive end, and 2020 they drafted Jordan Brooks, linebacker. I mean, out of those names there, nothing really flashy, nothing really coming out to me. And now they don't have a pick coming up in this year's draft and next year's draft. So what is going on with these Seattle Seahawks, Chris? I mean, you could just talk about what their needs are. I mean, I doubt we'll have potentials for them in the second round right now, but what do they need, and what do you think there?
I think that, I mean, the writing's on the wall. They need offensive line help. They need someone to protect Russell Wilson, who's one of the most sacked quarterbacks in the league. They could use another playmaker. They don't really need the playmaker, but they could use another playmaker for Russ. They have been tied to AB. But with that, for me, it's got to be offensive linemen, especially with the addition of J.J. Watt now into that division. They got a murderer's row of defensive line that he's going to have to face 6 times in the season. So I don't know about you, James, but for me, it's got to be a lineman, man.
I agree. I think they need that, but I also think they're teetering. They're on the point of let's blow this thing up and restart soon. I think all that talk about trading Russell Wilson and all these teams wanting it, I think they should have maybe entertained it a little bit more than they did. And I think they could have got a really good package, because another year wasted of them and maybe making the playoffs, maybe not, and not being very good. I mean, you lose a year of credibility to trade Russell, and next year that value might not be the same as it was this year. And I think they missed the boat a little bit there, and I think they're over wishing, hoping that this team's going to go back to the relevance it was, and I just don't see it. No one's scared of this team anymore, and
I agree.
They're not the team. They're not the team of that division. That's for sure. So, but yeah, I agree. Linemen, if they're going to go that route, that's the way you do it. The next team. Also in that division, a team that I am scared of, the Los Angeles Rams, 10-6. They have a second, a third, a fourth, a sixth, and a seventh. And their draft history is fantastic. I love this. So in 2016, they drafted first overall Jared Goff. 2017, they had no pick because that was traded to Tennessee so they could draft Jared Goff. 2018, no pick because they traded that to New England so they could get Brandon Cooks. In 2019, they had no pick. They traded that to the Atlanta Falcons for more picks. In 2020 and 2021, they also had no pick because they traded those to Jacksonville for Jalen Ramsey. And then in 2022, they also have no pick, and 2023 no pick because they traded that to Detroit for Matthew Stafford. But all that being traded, all that being said, I love what they try to do. I love how aggressive they are, and the fact that they try to win now and go do it. They remind me of us playing fantasy football.
Yeah, they do.
Is that the right way to do it? I have no idea, but I enjoy watching it happen. So, Chris, what do they need? And I mean, obviously, I don't know potential, but what do they need? Yeah, what do they need? Draft picks. That's good.
I mean, given the hit rate of these late round first draft picks, I mean, I don't blame them for moving them, because they've pretty much finished in the back end of the draft for all those picks. Yep. I mean, given the fact that Goff or Brandon Cooks isn't on the team anymore, it's kind of like a loss if you look at it. I mean, I don't know who the first turn into that they could have picked that they moved. But with the Rams, they need to address another playmaking position. They need to address the wide receiver. I know they have Woods and Kupp, but I could see them adding another guy there. They did lose Reynolds, which isn't a big loss, but still a loss nonetheless. They do have Van Jefferson, who could take a step up this year. So maybe they don't go playmaker. Maybe they do. It's hard to get a read on what they're going to do. There's not a lot of information coming out about the Rams' plans moving forward towards the draft. So when you break down their team and you really look at it, I think again they're gonna go offensive line. I mean, that's one of their
I was
one of their
thinking that
big
too.
needs. Yeah.
I think that's the safe bet, especially with the fact that Cam Akers showing up and whatnot. You want to keep that line up, and you want to keep Stafford up. He's old.
On his feet. Yep.
He's
Come
tough,
on, he's
but
not old.
hey, he's an older quarterback.
Maybe football years he's old. Okay. But
Well,
come
yeah,
on.
yeah. Well, I mean, he's not Drew Brees old, but he's
He's getting there.
But yeah, no, I think that's where they'll go too. But they're a team that they trade them away and they make the playoffs. So I can't knock them for doing it because they're still making the playoffs. They're a team that people are scared of, and they had a chance last year too. They just need a better quarterback, which they have now. So they could be a scary team coming out of the NFC this year. So
yeah, where do you got their wide receivers? Like, are they targets of yours entering the year? Like,
well, they were targets of mine last year with Jared Goff. Imagine what they are now with Matthew Stafford throwing them the ball.
Yeah,
so I mean,
I
they're
think
still
they're
up
gonna be
there.
much
They're
more.
still in the top 15. I think both of them are too. I don't think it's just one. I think they're that big need they could have addressed. They didn't. I thought with a tight end. I don't know if these young rookie tight ends are going to be that good or not yet. I mean, I know they added one last year there and whatnot, but I don't think that's a second round pick either. I think the next best tight end is what Pat. What's his name there?
Freiermuth or
Yeah, I
Brevin
think-
Jordan.
Yeah,
Depends
those
on
are
who
the
you
two.
like
But
more.
I mean, I see them as maybe third round guys, fourth round. I don't think they're higher than that. So
Maybe a Trey McKitty.
yeah, we'll see where that guy goes. There's a backstory to that one, and I'm curious to see what happens with that one. So, but
Okay, out of the two wide receivers, which one would you want to own? Cooper Kupp or
that's a
Robert
good
Woods?
question,
Knowing
too.
now that Stafford's the quarterback and he can move the ball downfield, he's not just going to look for the dump off like Jared Goff.
see, the problem is the dump off made Robert Woods so good, and if you're
And
taking
both of them really though, right?
but if you're taking that away, who's the guy that I think can get more separation downfield and get open better? I think it's Cooper Kupp.
Yeah.
I think I'd rather Kupp. I think they're both going to do well, but I think Cooper Kupp might be that guy he flocks to more.
Are you targeting Van Jefferson?
No, I don't think there's enough room for three wide
Not yet?
receivers. Not yet. I mean maybe as in a deep league dynasty kind of thing to
Stash.
keep him around as a there, but I mean the go-to guys are those first two guys. They're not. Van Jefferson had glimpses, but nothing. He's not taking over yet.
Yeah, so you have Robert Woods over Kupp.
I got Kupp over Woods.
Kupp over Woods.
Kupp over Woods this
Okay.
year. Yeah, I think Kupp's going to be their guy.
I like it.
So, all right, our last team and probably the team that's in the most shambles right now. The
Cowboys.
Houston Texans.
Oh.
Yeah, no, they're from Houston though. Not close. Houston Texans. They have a third rounder, a fourth rounder, a fifth, 2 fifths, 1, 2, 3, 3 sixths, and a seventh. They have a QB who may be going to jail. They have issues all around. They have too many running backs now, apparently, that they brought in a few more. They lost their top wide receiver twice in back-to-back years. Yeah, this is interesting. So they had no pick last year. In 2019, they drafted Titus Howard, offensive tackle out of Alabama State. I don't know too much about him, not really flashy. No pick in 2018. 2017, they drafted that quarterback that might be going to jail in Deshaun Watson, which looked great up until this year. And 2016, they drafted Will Fuller, who also left. Chris, this team is in trouble. What needs do you have for them aside from everything? Is that your answer for this?
Yeah, that's pretty much it, James, buddy. A quarterback, possibly, most likely. It's not good in Houston. I mean, they're probably going to be the 101 next season. Do they have a first next season? Did you
I
see
don't
it?
know if they
I
traded
missed
that one away yet. I didn't see that yet, but
I mean, if they don't, oh man, they're going to give someone the 101 that
they could be 101 for a few years looking at this team.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
I mean, if they lose Watson, the season's a wash no matter who they put back there.
Yep.
They got no one catching the ball. They got no one throwing the ball.
They don't have a pick until the third, so they can't even pick up wide receivers until the third round. Which by then, what's left? Like it's bad. It's not good.
Yeah.
That team is
It's not looking good moving forward for them.
No. If you're a Houston fan, we feel sorry for you. You could jump to the Cowboys. We're not that far off, and we can, I know that's sacrilegious because Houston and Dallas are a big rivalry, but I mean, at least we're winning games.
Not that far off from being in shambles, you mean, or not that far off?
No, not that far off in where we are located on the map of the USA. That's not that far off. I didn't think I would have to explain that to you, but you are a Saints fan, so that's fine.
Hey, now.
Hey, you started it. But anyways, that's all of the teams we went through. We got you guys, I think, some pretty good preparation for the draft. We got you some good outlooks on all the teams, some potential players that could go in certain areas. Of course, like we've been saying, anything can change. It's the NFL draft. It's wild. A trade, a move up, this just slots everybody down or up or whatever happens. So this is what we think. This is what we think could happen, what we want these teams to do and what they should do. Doesn't necessarily mean that's going to happen. Just ask the Green Bay Packers. But with that, thank you guys for listening. Tune in next week when we are going to be going over, I believe we're doing a mock draft next week, Chris, with all the guys coming back. And
so hopefully they took some notes with these episodes.
Well, they should be taking our notes. I don't know if they will, but yeah, we're going to be doing a mock draft next week. We're going to break it down, and all of us are going to pick as if we are the GM of each of these teams. We're going to break it down, split it up, and we're going to make the picks. And some of us are going to, I guess, screw over the others as we make the picks. There will be no trades allowed, so it's whatever spot they are right now. That's where we're picking from, and we're going to have some fun with that next week. So tune in next week for that. And thanks again for listening. Follow us on Instagram at the Fantasy Football War Room, on YouTube at the Fantasy Football War Podcast, and have yourselves a good night. Bye.